Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a really cool show today, folks. I was turned on to a brand new Small Town Monsters Investigates movie, which I had the pleasure of watching not once but twice because I got really intrigued by this thing. I sat down and I started to kind of break it down a little bit because some of the things that Hellbent Holler captures in this movie gives me chills up my spine, up and down my spine. And it's one of those things where, you know, when you get a Bigfoot movie or you get a creature movie or a cryptid movie, you get a lot of what's that, a little bit of rustling here, a little bit of rustling there, and you go, well, okay, that's interesting. Some of the things that is in this movie, folks, will make you stop in your tracks and make you think twice about going into the woods. I'll tell you, we're gonna go into this quite a bit with Jessi Doyle, who's the director and really the creator of this movie. And the one of two, there's two members of Hellbent Holler, and she's one of the founders of Hellbent Holler. And really the raw creative style of this movie, and this movie that we're talking about today, is the monster on Morris Mountain, Bigfoot in the Uwharries. And we're going to North Carolina today. I'll tell you a little bit about the group, and then we'll jump right into today's program, because today's program is going to be one of those that'll keep you on the edge of your seat today. They hail from the Carolinas. Hellbent Holler is a two-person research team that investigates all manners of high strangeness in the southern Appalachians. I believe I said that right. I'm a northerner, you know. From the forests of the land between the lakes to the mountains of North Georgia, Hellbent Holler takes on a tech-driven yet unconventional approach to exploring mysterious phenomena. The duo has researched Sasquatch, Dogman, anomalous lights, and wilderness paranormal activity. Now, Hellbent Holler consists of Joe, who has spent the last 2 decades looking into the existence of Bigfoot in the southern states, and Jessi Lee, who's our guest today, a longtime researcher of the paranormal and occult. The two members together combine and sometimes contrast their research methods and philosophies and various phenomena to create a unique and holistic approach to their search for answers. And again, they combine wonderfully in today's movie that we're going to talk about from Small Town Monsters. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in Jessi Lee. Jessi, how you doing today?
I am very, very well. And you did pronounce Appalachia correctly.
I did.
You did.
See, I get a lot of crap about my pronunciation of Louisville, which I know it is because there's a King Louis. It's not a Lua. I refuse to pronounce it the way that you guys.
You will not concede ground on Louisville.
I will not.
Okay.
I'm a northerner.
Understood.
Through and through. But we'll agree to disagree if that's okay with you on that deal. First of all, I tip my cap to you on this one, on this production creation of yours. It is one that from the very get-go, you're in right away, and you're in the action right away, and out in the field right away. It's there. There's not a half hour of history, and I'm not putting toothpicks in my eyes trying to stay awake in this deal. We're right there right away, and you take us right out into the field right away, which I commend you on.
Thank you.
So tell me, as a researcher, as an investigator, and as someone who I know you do love the history along with the action and the investigation, tell me your thought process on this right away. As someone who puts this movie together, what's your thought process of bringing us out there right away?
Well, that's kind of just a reflection of how I am. I am very forward driven with everything I do. I'm very intense, and I just want to get out there and do the thing. That's always one thing that bothered me about a lot of documentaries on the paranormal or cryptids is it's a whole lot of talking and exposition, and it's very languid and it's very passive. And I'm not a passive person at all. And I just want to get into the action. What we do with Hellbent Holler is getting into the action and being part of the action. And I wanted to really drive everything forward. Here's what you need to know. Here's where we are. Here's why we're going there. Here's a little history on it. All right, we're there now. That's what's important. We're there now. Let's get into it. So, I tried to make that just drive forward, and then let's go ahead and just get into the fun stuff right away.
Now, initially, you would say, okay, there's only two of you. You're going into the Uwharries, which is this beautiful area of North Carolina, but it's deep into North Carolina. And it actually, sitting there watching it, it reminds me a lot of areas of Minnesota here. There's a lot of pine, but it's a dense forest, right? Just a very dense area where it'd be very easy to get turned around. There's a lot of areas you go into that, I guess, is it fair to say here, Jessi, for someone who would be a woodsman or someone who's a hunter, you could say to yourself, that's a great place to set up if you wanted to kill prey or kill anything, because it's a kill zone, right? I mean, you even pointed out at one point that you could trap something very easily. I mean, there's areas and zones where there's like ravines or low areas that are very dangerous. I mean, very wooded areas that are not easy to traverse, not easy to get around in, right?
The Uwharries are very deceptive. So if you read about the Uwharries on just a surface level, you would say there's no way Bigfoot could be there. There is no way. It's not that big. There's people going out there to go off-roading all the time. There's hikers out there. There's cyclists. There's all of this going on. But it's actually deceptively large because you do have a lot of private property that intersperses around bits of the Uwharrie. So the property of the Uwharrie is growing all the time because they're constantly buying property from private landowners to build it up and get it larger and larger. So the hunting is not a huge thing out there. There are areas that people do go hunting out there, but it used to be the site of defunct mining operations. It was gold mining that went on out there. The gold that was mined there was actually used by the United States to make the Louisiana Purchase. So the Uwharrie gold made the Louisiana Purchase, which is pretty cool. But with that, there's all these super dangerous areas that used to be mining areas. There were areas that we went into in the documentary that are actually collapsed mine shafts. And that's where you see us going through those narrow corridors there, that they're collapsed mine shafts. And there's plenty that are not collapsed yet, but they are going to collapse eventually. So it is a very dangerous place. But what's interesting about it too is not a lot of people really go anywhere in the Uwharrie outside of the public recreation areas. Off-roading is very, very popular there, but it's confined to a very, very small area. And then the cycling is confined to a small area. That leaves a huge swath of wilderness that anything could dwell in or, live in.
Now, is it the entire area that's a national park, or is it just certain areas of it that are a national park?
It's kind of a patchwork. It's a patchwork national park. There's a huge chunk, and then there's private land that intersperses in the middle, and then you got another huge chunk over here. But they're trying to unite all the parcels of land. But there are a lot of private landowners out there that have land interspersed throughout.
I know the part that you said was a former mining area, and part of the area you go to investigate was actually at one point, was it Navy property?
I don't think it was Navy property.
Okay. Was it government property? Is that what it was?
It was government property. Yeah. Okay. And the Uwharrie is a national forest, so it is public land. But, in my documentary, you saw that there's that sign. If you go beyond those, we call that the Jurassic Park cage that's on top of that mountain that covers up a giant vertical mine shaft. And it surrounds that because I'm sure that a lot of drunk teenagers fell into that mine shaft over many years. So it's a federal crime to go on the other side of those gates, but we call those the T-Rex pins because they look like something from Jurassic Park. But I don't know. The Uwharrie is a very strange place. Ownership of it in terms of what level of government owns this and this and this, I'm not sure, but it is a national forest.
Well, the reason why I bring it up is because it's interesting that there's probably a combination of authorities out there. If you say it looks like the Jurassic Park pins, but if you also cross-reference too, there's a newer structure, the border crossing, that looks a lot like that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of vertical steel pylon kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So it could be a public works fence. It could be, depending on whether it's the interior that built it, whether it's, the Forest Service that built it, or whether it was the military that built it.
Right.
It could be a number of different branches that could have built it to keep someone out.
And that's an interesting thread to maybe pull on going forward, that dig into the history of it. Who built what and why did they build it?
Yeah, yeah. Because if there's gold interest there and it's been mined, I mean, obviously you're keeping someone out for safety. But if there's some remnants that are still there, well, maybe it's been built to keep people out because potentially there's something still there to get,
Or to keep something in.
Or, maybe there's something dangerous there to keep someone in, right? I mean, you're right there. So, and the interesting thing that you said about in the movie is that potentially these creatures may be using this as shelter.
It's a possibility. It's an absolute possibility. So a lot of the mine shafts that are open, that are larger and well-known, they are barricaded off. There's giant steel welded bars in front of them. However, there are new mine shaft openings coming into existence all the time. There's collapses that happen all the time. And this is not an area that is patrolled or, inspected or anything like that. So you have this whole area that is just covered with all of these man-made mine shafts that collapse at any given point in time. So we found several large entrances that were not blocked off. And it really lends to the idea that Sasquatch could be using these man-made abandoned structures as a place to hide during the day and come out at night. There have been a few reports by local farmers that they saw one of these creatures above ground, and then all of a sudden it disappeared, and then he discovered a open mine shaft nearby. So there is some precedence for this, and there are supporting stories that really lend some validity to this, that there is a place where these can go and hide out during the day and not be seen and not encounter anything or anybody. And the mine area that we went to, that's called Coggins Mine. That is only one mine of many that is in the Uwharrie National Forest. There's several gold mines out there that are deep in the wilderness that people haven't seen for hundreds of years.
Wow. Now, interestingly enough, now, as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking, if it's just you and Joe heading out here into this huge area of the Uwharries, heading into this area, trying to tackle it, just you and him, I mean, you're up against it, right? But you bring along a guy who not only knows this area well, but it seems like he's been out by himself hunting Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. A guy by the name of MK Mike. Mike, you want to tell us a little bit about Mike? Because Mike's an interesting character. I mean, probably one of the more interesting characters I've ever seen.
Mike is a very interesting character. So Mike, we first met Mike in person to film this project, and we just hit it off with him so well. He is an Afghanistan veteran that came back, and, many veterans from that war fought with a lot of demons when they came back. And he really just threw himself into ultralight hiking. And he did the AT several times, but he moved to an area that is about an hour away from the Uwharrie National Forest. And he just started going up there and hiking and going out by himself. He was out by himself, hammock camping all the time and hiking. He knows that area like the back of his hand. And he's had several strange encounters out there, but nothing super overt. So he was definitely an asset when it came to this project, because Joe and I, we're traveling 3.5 hours to get up there. We really had only been to the Uwharrie National Forest twice prior to filming this documentary and going for the few months that we did filming this documentary. We were out there, I think it took us about 2 or 3 months for us to film this entire thing, because we go out there over and over and over to gather the evidence that we actually gather in the end. But we met MK. We wanted him to kind of show us a couple of places, and that's it. But it really blossomed into, he became like our assistant in all this. So he became our field producer for the Uwharrie project. Hellbent Holler has always been Joe and I. Joe and I are a married couple. We've been doing this for years, and it just has a great dynamic of us. But we really needed that extra hand with this, especially in that mine area, because it's so dangerous. Joe and I film everything ourselves. We run all the cameras. We run everything ourselves. We don't have a film crew. We don't have a sound guy. It's just us two. So having an extra hand in that mine area was a definite must, because that's probably one of the most dangerous areas that we've ever been in, not just because of the creatures that we're out there looking for, but the local wildlife, which is rattlesnakes, copperheads, and they're insane up there. Like, it's worse than I've ever seen anywhere that I've been to. But not only because of that, but because of the possibility of open mine shafts. So he was definitely an asset to this project. And his connections with the ultralight hiking community and the regular hiking community up there, he connected us with the witness that gave us that video that set this whole thing off. So he was definitely integral to the whole process of creating this documentary and doing this entire investigation.
Yeah, I want to leave that video for people to watch, or, you know, to watch the actual evidence for that, because that's pretty creepy as well.
It's probably, so what sets all this whole thing off is a hiker recorded this video while he was out there. And it is one of the most shocking set of vocalizations we have ever heard. So that's kind of what starts the ball rolling on this whole project to begin with.
Yeah, yeah. Getting back to MK here, he seems like he's not just, you know, a guy who turns you on to different people and gives you these different references of people to get in contact with. He's a full-blown tracker, isn't he? I mean, he's talking about pulling up satellite images, and he seems like he's driven at one point to want to find this thing, from just thinking this thing is a myth to saying, you know what, I'm in. You know, I'm really wanting to find this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I'm just going to finish this thought here, and that's this. To me, there's almost a lack of self-preservation on his part. Almost like, you know what? Until I'm staring this thing in the face and there's almost real danger here, I don't think it exists. You know, to me, it's almost like this thing isn't going to hurt me. Did it ever concern you at one point that maybe he was a little bit too laissez-faire about this thing?
No, that's kind of his personality.
Okay.
That's the thing, is he did a couple tours in Afghanistan. So I think that he's kind of in the same vein that we are, that Joe and I had really exciting lives prior to the whole Bigfoot thing. So we do the same thing. We really throw ourselves into what we're doing. And it's really difficult to find people like that in the Bigfoot world. A lot of people that are into Bigfoot and are really active in the field, they don't go out and investigate. And if they do, it's very, again, like I said before, it's very passive. They'll go to campgrounds, and that's fine. They'll go to campgrounds and sit around and tell stories. And there is a place for that for sure. But the whole philosophy with Hellbent Holler and everything we do is to go into the action, and to disregard your own safety to do so. Just get the footage and get the evidence. And I think that's why we hit it off so well with him, is we are kind of in the same vein of, it doesn't matter what happens to me as long as we get the footage and we get the proof. So we really kind of meshed with that, meshed over that factor. You know, we're the exact same way. So I'm never concerned, because I'm always the person that's going to dive into the volcano myself. So I was just like, all right, let's do it. You know, it was really exciting to have somebody else be part of the group that has that kind of attitude, that drive, and that, you know, just throw it all to the wind and let's get it done, you know?
Well, let me ask you this, Jessi, and I have an important question at the end of the program to ask you too, about that kind of throwing everything to the wind. But when you prepare for a shoot like this, as far as safety goes, when it's just you and Joe, how do you prepare for your own personal safety? So I mean, in case you run into one of these creatures and it's hostile, because I know you deal with R&Ds, you deal with Seth, you know, and you deal with the other guys at Small Town Monsters. They've run into some stuff too in their day, and I'm sure they'll tell you that, you know, you can never be too prepared.
Right.
You can't fend off everything, right? But you have to have something with you at one point or another. to try and help you along the way. What is it that you carry with you to try and help you in case you do run into something out there in the woods?
So before you even go into the woods, before we go into the woods, you have to start with preparation and training. Joe and I both go to survival courses. We've been through all of that. But if you're familiar with David Paulides' Missing 411 series, he's got kind of a set of rules that he's put together over the years looking at these cases of missing persons in national parks and beyond. One of those is to always carry a personal locator beacon. So we always have one of those on us. We have a Garmin InReach Mini that is always attached to my body or my pack. And so we always send messages on a periodic basis to somebody back home so they know exactly where we are and that we're okay. And you just have to be prepared to go out there. Also, if you look at those chest rigs that Joe and I are both carrying, they're Hill People gear chest rigs. Those are always on us. It doesn't matter if we take our backpack off to go relieve ourselves in a bush. The chest rig is always on us because those chest rigs have Glock 10 millimeters on them. We always go out there armed. No exceptions. Always go out there armed. A lot of times we're in bear territory. So you have to think beyond what are we out here looking for? You've got to be ready for that. But also you got to remember, I believe that these things are out there. I 100% believe these things are out there. And if I'm out there looking for a 7 or 8 foot tall hairy hominid that has been reported to take people in the woods, I'm not going to go out there unarmed. It seems crazy and faulty logic to do that. If you actually believe in these things and you're like, well, I just go out here, but I'm unarmed, then I just don't know. I don't know how you square that circle there, but we always go armed into every area we go to. We have the necessary training to use our weapons, and we are just ever so vigilant about keeping our wits about us when we're out there. We do know, however, that, eventually we're probably going to have some tragedy befall us out there by doing this, because what we do is dangerous. But I think that's kind of the risk you take with it, and enjoy the thrill of doing it as well.
Well, good. I mean, I'm glad that I am glad you're armed. I'll tell you that. I am glad you're armed, because there are other things other than Bigfoot that are out there that could befall harm to you.
Bears, and what's even worse is people. People are out there too.
Right.
We've encountered over the years. There's an area we go to in North Georgia where we have run across evidence of cults operating out there. And we started digging into them, and we started really finding a lot of strange evidence of these cults operating out there. And it got very strange and very dangerous very quickly. So that's a factor you got to consider as well, because these national forests are tucked away. They're hidden. So people can get up to very, very nefarious things out there without anybody's watchful eye upon them.
So have you ever thought about doing it? There we go. Sorry, I had a bit. There we go. So have you ever thought about doing a documentary about these cults that are out there?
So on my channel, I have short form documentaries that I've been doing over the years. We've been doing the channel for probably 4 or 5 years now. But yeah, absolutely. I want to do a full length documentary on one of these cults, but we've really encountered one cult that's very, very dangerous. And we've got to figure out how to navigate those waters to where we can do it, to where it's safe for us to release a documentary about these people.
Wow. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on that tangent there.
No, that's fine. No, it's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So let me throw this unexpected little question at you, and that's this. I mean, we hear things like, well, the whole reason why I don't go, you'll hear this from investigators of Bigfoot as well. The reason I don't go out into the woods with armed looking for them is because if I go out armed looking for Bigfoot, well, if I expect trouble, they're going to give me trouble. A lot of times they believe, well, if I go out with a gun looking for Bigfoot, well, Bigfoot's going to come at me with an attitude and is going to want to fight back. I take it you're not one that subscribes to that as well.
That's not a risk I'm willing to take. I mean, that's the thing, is you can walk by a rattlesnake over and over and over again, and it doesn't strike you. It doesn't mean it's not going to eventually strike you. It doesn't mean it has no intention to ever strike you. It doesn't make it less dangerous just because it didn't strike you that time. So my safety and my well-being takes precedence over any sort of nonviolence philosophy that, anybody can spout off. I'm going to protect myself no matter what. And that just applies to everything. That's just how it is. Because I believe in self-preservation above any kind of peaceful interaction. We don't go out there waving a gun around. We don't do anything like that. We don't do anything provoking. We're not Bigfoot bouncers. We're not out there yelling into the forest, come and get me, Bigfoot, or anything like that. We're quiet. We're investigative. We keep our firearms tucked away in our chest rigs. We never take them out. But yeah, I'm not going to forego my personal safety for that.
Yeah. Just clarifying as to different positions and whatnot, because I find the theory interesting. I find both the Aper theory and the transdimensional theory of different theories of Bigfoot interesting, and different methods of investigating it interesting. And
I just don't think that's a risk I'm willing to take. I'll be like, well, listen, maybe if I go out here unarmed, I'll have a peaceful interaction with this. But what if you don't, And they're like, oh, darn, I guess I shouldn't have come out here unarmed. So that's just a non-negotiable. It's not a risk I'm willing to take.
I'm a practical woods person too. If you're that deep in the woods, I'm taking every precaution to protect myself too. And
I think a lot of that comes just from people kind of, armchair quarterbacking and speculating about it. Like if if you don't do this and this and this, sorry, but if you have no sense of self-preservation, I don't know what to tell you. If you want to wander out in the woods into bear country without anything, God bless you, honey.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it's one thing to say, oh, I could wander out there and I'll be absolutely safe and, be Snow White and be one with nature. It's a whole nother thing to go out and do it for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to do. That's for sure. I tell you what, Jessi, let's take our break here. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you find out there and speculate a little bit about what you truly believe is out there. Because it's interesting, without spoiling too much about the movie, because I don't want to tip off anything about the movie. I want to, again, let that speak for itself, because there's so much richness there and good stuff there that people need to check out.
And it doesn't let you rest. You never get to rest while watching this film. No. You never get to rest.
Not at all. Not at all. It's one after another. And there's one particular scene that I do want to talk about that I want to ask you if you learned anything more about, because it is bone chilling. And we'll talk about the psychology of what's left behind. I'll tease it with that. A lot of times, sometimes you'll, if you see something, like if you're driving by, you'll see something left on the highway, someone's refuse, and it looks odd. Like sometimes if you drive by, you'll see a garbage bag laying on the highway and maybe it's got something in it. And your mind wanders as to, oh my God, what's in that garbage bag? It could be a dead body, something like that. You find something that's just laying in the woods that nobody should abandon.
You're right.
We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back.
Absolutely.
And where the mind can wander.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was one of the scariest things that was in this movie, because for someone to abandon what they abandoned, and I noticed a little bit as I watched it the second time, as to some of the things that were left behind in the contents of.
And there's more footage of that I didn't include. So yeah, it gets deep.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when we come back. Name of the movie is from Small Town Monsters Investigates. It's The Monster on Morris Mountain, Bigfoot in the Uwharries. It is so good. It's presented by Jessi Lee and Hellbent Holler. It's presented by Small Town Monsters. Jessi, am I right by saying that is this available in August, or is it available now?
This is available on August 10th on Small Town Monsters YouTube channel. And then it's going to be on streaming platforms to follow.
Okay. So available August 10th on the YouTube channel and Small Town Monsters, like Jessi said, and then available with additional platforms forthcoming. So we encourage you to flood the YouTube channel. October 10th. I'm sorry, August 10th, not October. August, not October. What am I doing? August 10th.
You failed me.
I did. I'm sorry. August 10th, flood the YouTube channel. Check it out. And then again, keep checking things out. And we'll let you know as well the different platforms that'll be available on as it comes out, because I'm excited to let you guys know about this. But more with Jessi as we continue about the monster on Morris Mountain, Bigfoot in the Uwharries, coming up next right here on the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Jessi Lee from Hellbent Holler. Name of the movie, The Monster on Morris Mountain, Bigfoot in the Uwharries. It's available from Small Town Monsters on the YouTube channel coming August 10th, and then it'll be available in different platforms after that. Okay, Jessi, we had teased before the break, as you, in the beginning of the movie, as you guys are first moving forward into the forest, yourself, Joe, and I believe at this point you had MK with you, if I remember right?
Not in the initial discovery.
Okay, not in the initial, that's right. Mm-hmm. But as you're moving forward into the forest in the Uwharries, you come across something. Tell me what it is you come across and why this is so alarming.
So during this segment of the film, we're actually behind Yates Place Campground, which is the site of many aggressive encounters. Yates Place is a free campground, so you'll have people who are long-term campers who will go out there and stay for extended periods of time, often homeless people who have nowhere else to go, but they can set up and they can stay there for a very long time. But it's also the site of a lot of aggressive encounters. There was an encounter in particular where there was a gentleman out there who was there for an extended period of time, and he was the only one out there. And something kept coming up to his camp in the night and screaming and shaking his tent, and it just terrified him. It basically terrorized him. He got to the point where he would spend all day collecting firewood to build the fire up. That way he could keep it up and keep this thing away at night. So that's what we're going into. That's the context. That's the context of us going into the area behind Yates Place. So we hike into the area back there, and as we're going along, we find a tent that has been abandoned, but it's abandoned in very strange circumstances. Everything that this person had is also with the tent, including their clothing, their food, personal items. It's all there. And it looks like the tent was dragged down from another location because where the tent actually was on an incline. And no one's going to set a tent up on an incline like that. But it looks like it was torn open to a degree, and all of their stuff was there. But I don't want to speculate on what exactly happened because I don't know, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. So, they could have just gotten out of there in a hurry and left every worldly possession that they had behind, or something could have happened to this person. So this was quite a shocking discovery, as you can imagine. So we continued on with our investigation, and then subsequently we asked MK to come back with us to the site after and give his opinion on it. MK participates in a lot of forest cleanup. There's not a lot of cleanup that occurs that is state funded or federally funded for the Uwharries. So most of the trail maintenance is actually done by hikers that frequent the Uwharries. And he's a part of these organizations. So he's seen all kinds of abandoned campsites before. So he was a great expert to go to when it came to finding out, okay, how does this look and how does it compare to abandoned campsites you've found before? So he was a great resource for that. We brought him in, and he was honestly shocked by the scene that we found. The tent was an expensive tent. It wasn't a cheap Ozark Trail, straight off the shelf tent. It was actually a pretty expensive tent. And he noticed that a lot of the items that were left behind is something that he's never seen left behind at one of these abandoned sites before. So it was kind of a shocking discovery, especially right in the location where we found it. It's in an area where we have account after account after account of aggressive behavior and aggressive attacks from Sasquatch.
It seems to me that as I was, because I took and I told you I watched it a couple of different times. I took and froze the frame a couple of times, and I was looking at some of the different items that were there.
Yeah.
Did MK, did Joe come up with the same idea that I came up with, that this tent might have belonged to somebody who was trying to live in that area or squat in that area?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have a laundry basket there.
Yes.
You have things that they're not things you would take camping.
Right.
If you're going camping for the weekend, you're not taking these things. This is not the first time we've encountered this scene before, though. I'll let you know that as well. We've done extensive work in the land between the lakes. And I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but it's a national recreation area in Tennessee and Kentucky. And it's quite famous for dogman encounters. Mm-hmm. During one of our expeditions up there, we set off into the woods, way off trail into a very, very remote area. And we discovered a tent that was the same kind of scenario that we found here in the Uwharries. And it had rips into it. And it was completely collapsed. All of their effects were strewn about, and it looks like something clawed its way into the tent. And we found another scene in the land between the lakes that mirrors that exact scenario. Somebody went out there, they were living there because they had nowhere else to go, and they had all of their worldly possessions with them. And then one day they're just gone, and it looks like something removed them from the campsite. That's why it's eerily similar to that. And it's the same kind of scene all the way down in North Carolina in the Uwharries. A lot of times when you have people who go into these national forests to live long term because they have nowhere else to go, these are often people who are on the fringe of society. Nobody's looking for them. Their families have written them off at this point. So if they do go missing, there's no official report or anything. A lot of times these are people who everyone expects them to OD eventually anyway or disappear anyway. So nobody's looking for these people. So they're on the fringe of society. They're on the edge of society there. So if they do go missing, there's no official report. There's no organized efforts to find them. They're just gone and nobody knows it. So, that's something to take into account as well. People were asking me, "Oh, did you look at all the missing persons reports?" And I'm like, well, a lot of these people that go and they have nowhere else to go, and this is what they have to do to survive. They don't have anybody in their lives to make these missing persons reports. They're just gone, and you never hear anything about it.
Yeah. Now, automatically, I think to myself, okay, if it's not a supernatural creature that's coming in there, ripping the tent apart and even dragging it down, I think to myself two things. One, serial killer, or two, those cults you're talking about out in the woods that are looking for someone for a human sacrifice. Or drug debt gone wrong, or, some other type of foul play. Now, you said there was other evidence that you found that you didn't include in the film. Did you find anything like blood spatter or anything like that amongst the wreckage there?
There was no blood splatter or anything like that. There was some strange, on the part where we're in the Coggins mine area and we find that blouse. Yeah. There was brownish reddish stains all over that. I cut that out of the film because I didn't want to get I didn't want to include that, you kind of have to find that line to cross or not cross. Right. Now, when it comes to that tent, like I said, that when it goes deeper in terms of, this is a scene I have found before in the middle of the woods. And I would never say that these things are connected because you've got geographically, they're so far apart, but there's obviously some kind of pattern here that is developing. And I'm wondering if any of these other national forests, the same scene in these remote wilderness areas is not playing itself out over and over and over again, where people who are vulnerable and alone suddenly find themselves taken.
There's a difference between, I'm sure MK even told you this, being someone who does clean up quite often. There's a difference between a bunch of kids who go out in the woods,
get drunk and then leave their tent behind. And somebody who, this is all their worldly possessions. This is it. This is all they have. And they're not just going to get out of there and leave everything. Because you can tell this is kind of everything and this person had left. When you're down to nothing, even the smallest thing is a treasure to you. So it's it was very out of the ordinary to find that scene, that this appeared by the clues around it, that this was this person's only possessions, and they walked away and left them behind.
So you brought up the Land Between the Lakes. If you had to compare the feeling you had in Uwharrie between that and Land Between the Lakes, is there a similar feeling to you? Is it different between the creatures, between Dogman and Bigfoot?
There were so many parallels between the areas, that there was previous human habitation. It's almost like a bingo card you start to mark off when it comes to these things. These areas of high strangeness. John Keel talked about window areas. There's these areas of high strangeness where it seems like this stuff just seems to gather and happen. And it's not just cryptid activity. It's paranormal activity. It's poltergeists. It's strange sounds, strange disappearances, strange lights in the woods. And it seems like all of this activity happens around these areas. And it seems like it marks off these things, that it's a site of former human habitation, sites where mining took place or digging into the earth, major earth movements occurred. And then people being kicked off the land. There were people that lived there, that the government took the land and they kicked them off. That's the case in the Uwharries. That's the case in the Land Between the Lakes. It was very violent in the Land Between the Lakes when the Tennessee Valley Authority took all of those people's land. And it's a point of contention right now, too, up to this day, with the ancestors of those people. So you have to think about the imprint that the people and the events that occurred in an area put on the land. And does that feed into what we're experiencing today? But yeah, that's a lot of the parallels we saw there. Is it had all of those markers that we find in all these places that are very, very active. And that's an ongoing kind of theory that we're working on, is all of this human interaction and movement of land and everything, does that stir something up and bring something out? Is our collective unconscious feeding into manifesting these things or attracting these things? If it's not manifesting, are they coming to it because they're drawn to that energy and that history?
So the key to the title of this movie, which is The Monster on Morris Mountain, mm-hmm. it kind of ties into what MK is talking about. And he's talking about the fact that he tracked this so-called monster up to the mountain at one point. Mm-hmm. And he's running after this thing, right? And trying to hear it at one point, or following its call. At some point here, you guys are following this call. And I'm not going to, again, without spoiling it, you're hearing this call throughout the movie.
Yeah.
This is the most, again, one of the most astonishing things I think I've ever heard or seen in a movie. This isn't just, we heard one or two little calls, and do you hear that faint thing in the background? You know, and we're all like, oh my gosh, we're so scared. Jessi, oh my God. I mean, it's like this thing is sitting in your lap.
So we actually that was the big thing with the Uwharries, is it's audio. You hear it. That's what initially kicked off us going out there, was that hiker hearing that, recording that. It's that audio. So that seems to be, that was the common thread. It's like, you can hear it. And we would hear it. We were at West Morris Mountain Campground. And that's where famed Bigfoot researcher Mike Green actually camped at. And we camped in the spots that he had his famous Bigfoot surveillance van camping at before his untimely passing. But he would hear it. He captured the squeaky thermal footage out there as well. We actually found the stump, what's left of the stump, where he placed a Zagnut bar and actually captured the squeaky thermal, which we do show a small portion of in the beginning of the film when we kind of do a short history recap on there. But we were there and we would hear it night after night after night. And we would try to capture it. This is over a period of a couple of months. I was filming this. We'd be out there and we'd always camp at West Morris Mountain Campground, just because that's, why wouldn't you, Right. So we'd camp out there and we would hear this over and over. And we're just, what this is insane. We try to capture it. We'd have a lot of difficulty. We're very tech heavy with how we approach everything, and we're always trying to solve the problem. So we built the Super Sound Stick, which has a shotgun mic on top of it, a 32-bit float recorder attached to that, and I've got my headphones in, and it's on a monopod. And then that way, when I would hear the sound where it was, I could pinpoint it and locate it. And that's how we got those crazy vocalizations that we got. But they're insane. And I think at one point you just look at me and I just put my hands up and I'm just like, I can't get any more. We've got hours and hours of these vocalizations and they're so consistent. If I had any doubts about the existence of Sasquatch or Bigfoot, I think those pretty much put the nail in the coffin. I've never had a Class A sighting. I've never stood there and seen a Bigfoot ever. In all my years of doing this, never. I have not. I would love to, maybe not. I don't know how I would react. Even if you prepare yourself as best you can, you don't know how you're actually going to respond to that thing, that should not exist. But this audio that we captured, the audio that the hiker captured initially that brought us there, and then the audio that we captured and experienced, there is no explanation for it. That's a Sasquatch. That's a Bigfoot. That proves to me that this exists. Nothing short of me seeing one standing right in front of me would change that. That would be the only thing that would top this, that those vocalizations are absolutely insane. And I pinpoint him going around and up the mountain. It's crazy.
Wow. Have you ever heard the samurai type chatter that they do?
Yeah. So Ron Moorhead's Sierra Sounds, they're akin to a language. It sounds like a language. It sounds like two creatures communicating back and forth, a female and a male. But I've heard that. What I captured was not a conversation or a language. It was a calling out. It was a signal. I'd love to get some samurai chatter on audio, and eventually I might. We're going to continue to do this work in the Uwharries, but it's been the best audio captures I have ever gotten. I've heard some similar things in the woods, but I've never been able to capture them to the degree that we captured them for this film. But what I capture with this film is something calling out. It's something signaling and calling out over and over and over and over, and we capture it.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like the people that are going into the Uwharrie, whether it's to camp, to hike, to use the trails, to bike, whatever it is they're doing, run, do you feel like Bigfoot's looking at them as intruders and they're getting kind of chapped about it, and maybe they're interacting with humans like, you know what, just get out of here? Or do you feel like it's more of a primate human experience where they're getting upset? Or do you feel that this is a higher being that's saying, you know what, you really need to stop infringing on our territory?
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for any motivations, or I can't apply human motivations to something that we just don't know about. We don't know what its motivations are. We don't know what their motivations are, what their desires or interests are, or anything like that. We just simply don't. I think there's probably a curiosity factor. I personally think that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, it's apex of the apex. I don't think that there is a feeling of threat. I don't think they feel threatened by us. I think that they're more curious about us. What's interesting about the Uwharries is you can set your watch by when people are going to be there or not be there. It's very populated on the weekends. Through the week, it's almost deserted. So, if you have something out there that is an apex predator of any kind, it's got pattern recognition, obviously. During the weekends, when we were out there, we never really heard a lot of vocalizations at all. We got a lot of vocalizations during the week when there was not a huge human presence there. And one interesting thing that we discovered while doing this was it seems like whatever is out there that is making these calls, putting out these signals, that it uses the environment and the human interaction with the environment as cover for it, whether it be a car going down the highway or a plane overhead. It seems like they use that as cover for when they put these calls out. There are many, many times where we try to capture one of these calls out there, and there'd be a plane going overhead or a car going down the highway, and we just could not get it. And it's eternally frustrating when you're trying to capture the audio of this and you just keep having these interferences. And it gets to the point where you're like, this is not a coincidence. This is a tactic. This is something that these things have developed, and they're actually using the human interaction and human interference with the environment as cover for their communication.
So they're purposely using sound cover.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. It just happened too many times for it to not be the case. Now, what we got for the film that we actually presented in the film, that was during the middle of the week. There was not a lot of people out. There was no people out, actually. It was completely silent out there. So maybe it realizes it doesn't have to use any cover during those times because those areas are just not populated whatsoever during that time period.
I want to ask you kind of an odd question. That's this. Ronnie LeBlanc, who I've had on the program quite a bit from Expedition Bigfoot, has said to me, you know, Tim, in my experience, wherever you see a Bigfoot, you see a UFO. They seem to go hand in hand. In your experience in the Uwharries, have you seen that shared phenomenon? You hear a voice in the distance. You might see an odd light in the sky. Have you had that?
Okay,
phenomenon?
So not a UFO per se, but there's a lot of stories out of the Uwharries about orbs and lights, balls of light floating through the forest. MK actually saw a very, very strange ball of light when he was on a solo trip out there. And that kind of kicked off what he was doing as well. One strange thing that happened through the course of us filming this documentary and doing our investigation out there, this is so bizarre. We were setting up an experiment, and MK and I are sitting side by side at Campsite 11, which is one of Mike Green's campsites. We're sitting there side by side in our little chairs. We're wrapped up, and Joe's working on some surveillance equipment. And we're sitting there and we're talking. We got a little fire going, and we're just looking at the trees above us. And Joe is on a thermal, and Joe's on the thermal, and he's scanning around looking at the mountain behind us to see if he sees anything up there. And it's just kind of, we've been out there for hours, and we're just kind of staking out and kind of just seeing if we hear anything, experience anything. We're just hanging out up there. Joe is scanning around, and then MK and I are looking up, and we just happen to be looking at the exact same spot. And this is so bizarre. What I can only describe as a blue ethereal stingray floats through the trees. It wasn't in the sky. It wasn't below the trees. It was interspersed amongst the trees. And we both see it, and it shoots straight through the trees very quickly. And we both see it at the same time because we're both sitting there silently, and we both go, whoa. So we saw it at the same time. But I'm telling you, the only way to describe it was a blue, translucent, ethereal, giant stingray. So take that as you will.
You're not the first person to tell me that. In fact, people have seen them at the Ep89 Ranch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Washington. Yeah.
Cool.
They're quite common. Yeah.
It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. And I've seen some pretty bizarre stuff in my years. But it was just, what was great about it is it wasn't, I saw it and then I described it to MK. We're sitting there and we both at the same time go, whoa, because we just have that reaction because we both saw it. And then I said, what did you see? He goes, what did you see? And then we discussed it. We're like, oh, there's no explanation for that at all. It was so bizarre.
In fact, James Gilliland has called it an organic UFO. It's a
organic. Love that.
It's a living UFO. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knows exactly what it is. It's bizarre to hear him talk about it, but it's a living UFO. So, yeah.
Cool.
Pretty cool. Okay, so as we begin to wrap up here today, Jessi, I'll ask you this interesting question. You've alluded to it a little bit before, but I'll ask you this. I'm going to put you in a what if scenario here. I love playing the what if game. All right? And it's this. We'll play the evidence game first. You say you've never had the type A, class A type experience where it's, or the full bodied apparition, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
or had that experience where Bigfoot's standing in front of you. So you don't know how you'd react. But I'll play the what happens if scenario. It's you and Joe, just you and Joe on an investigation. And it's just you out there in the field. Boom, one stands in front of you. You're right there, and it's peaceful. What is your reaction?
And it's peaceful?
Yeah, just peaceful. It just shows
Then
up.
I probably hyperventilate a little bit. I observe as much as I can. Try to get my camera out. Hope I'm filming because that would be the goal. But yeah, I just observe. Of course, I'm gonna have that adrenaline dump. We were out in North Georgia, probably about 6 months ago, and we followed this creek really deep down into the woods, and we're really far out there, and we had found a couple prints. We had heard some strange things, and I see a black, upright, giant figure. I had no detail or anything, just saw a black figure jump over the creek and run into the woods. And I just started screaming and going, oh my God. I had just the biggest adrenaline dump, and I just grab Joe's camera and I take off after it, and I just start running. Joe gets hung. Joe's 6'3", so I'm 5'2", so I'm a lot quicker at going through like the woods. And he got hung up on a tree, and I'm running with his camera to try to find it. And I'm just like running, and I'm just super intense. I'm trying to find it. I think I would have that kind of reaction. Just because I've been making these films for so long, my first reaction is get the camera, shut up, get the camera, that would be my personal first reaction. I don't know. When you say it's peaceful, were you alluding to where would I try to get a shot off at it or something?
No. I'm just wondering what the reaction is if it's peaceful. What if it's somewhat angry?
Somewhat angry. We've got an issue here. I think we try to get some distance as quickly as possible. We unzip the chest rigs and then assess the situation.
Okay. Now, what if it's a baby?
What if it's a baby? Well, you want to assume that probably there's a mother about, so you probably want to get some distance as well. I would not approach if there was a baby Sasquatch out there. I'm just going to assume that there's a mother close by. I'm going to assume we need to get some distance.
Okay. Interesting.
I am definitely not going to go rescue the baby. That is not happening. Well, I am getting distance.
I know some people may be a little conflicted because if you see a child Bigfoot, you would think, oh, it's a baby Bigfoot, and maybe you.
I don't live in Disney World forest brain. I don't have that. That's a big problem too, is a lot of people, they've been Disney-fied so bad about animals, wildlife, that they think that they see, Mr. Cougar, that you can ask Mr. Cougar to stop eating Mr. Deer, and that doesn't work. Yeah. And I think that's cost a lot of people their lives. You need to realize it's dangerous in the forest, and that wildlife are wildlife. They're wild. They are not an exhibit. So you need to respect that and respect their space, or you will suffer the consequences.
Have you ever set any type of bait up for Bigfoot to try and see if one would come by?
There's so many people that try different things. We've never really done like a baiting. We've never people put peanut butter jars out there. There's a guy that put out dog food and all kinds of stuff. I'm not into littering at all. I'm a militant anti-litterer. But we did acquire Sasquatch pheromone chips. Now, this company doesn't make them anymore, but they use them, I believe, on Expedition Bigfoot at some point in time. But they're little pheromone chips. A lot of times hunters will use these chips for lure and everything, spray deer lure on them, but they're kind of little jelly chips that come in a jar. And it's a combination of human and ape estrus. So it is the reproductive sense of human and ape kind of combined. So that was the theory behind the Sasquatch pheromone chips. We have a couple left of those, but we've done a couple scent trap experiments is what we call them, where we will kind of ring an area with game cams and then place these scent chips in a tree nearby, like in the middle of it, and see if we can catch anything. We have never caught anything with them, though.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. These chips smell terrible.
I bet they do.
Oh, they're awful. Yeah.
And I'm wondering too, I mean, it's just, I guess it's the ex-hunter in me, if you've ever laid down, say, deer scent or anything like that to see if that attracts him, because of course, deer being supposedly the number one fun meat of, or meat treat of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
If that's ever attracted anything.
We actually experimented. You know, I told you we've been to the Land Between the Lakes several times, done expeditions out there. We've actually experimented with using wolf lure combined with the Sasquatch pheromone chip for a scent experiment out there. But it seems like every time we do something like that, a weird, out of nowhere, unexplained, unanticipated weather event occurs. So I don't know what to say about that.
Really?
That ties into that David Paulides missing 411 stuff too, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So
and
it's almost
those chips you can't get those chips anymore. So once we're out, we're out. That company doesn't make them anymore. Okay. I think they got fed up with crazy Bigfoot people.
Yeah.
You know, which is understandable from time to time.
Yeah. So it's almost like something comes and tries to wash away what you're doing, huh?
It's weird. It's very weird. And, you know, that's why I just can't subscribe to the, you know, this is a relic hominid. This is a dumb monkey running around the woods. There's something larger at work here. And I don't know what it is. I don't think we'll ever know what it is. You know, you don't ask an ant's opinion of what you're reading that day. You know, I don't think we'll ever understand it. I don't think we will, but we can try to see patterns and we can try to just observe as much as we can and try to interact with it as much as we can. Try to capture evidence of it. That's my whole goal. And I think I succeeded with that with Monster on Morris Mountain. I feel like I captured a little piece of the puzzle there, a little glimpse of reality, that these things are 100% real, but I don't think we'll ever get a total handle on it. But these tiny little crumbs, you know, I'll take a tiny crumb when I can get it.
Well, I know that, and I'll leave it for the movie again. I want people to see it in the movie. I know that MK explains something about how they get rid of remains after they're...
This is a theory he has, and it's a novel theory I have never heard anybody pose before. But what it took for that theory to come into existence was him going down there to that kill site and looking at it and then applying his previous knowledge of through hiking to it. Yeah. And he just had that spark. And I said, that is insanely interesting.
It is. It's very interesting.
I don't think that what's great is our little project has really coalesced a lot of people who traditionally have not been involved in the Bigfoot subject before. Mm-hmm. And so you can have these outside perspectives, these new perspectives where they can apply their personal knowledge of other things to the Bigfoot subject. And we're kind of building our little community around that. We've got a lot of interesting people. We've got a professor of divinity that is a part of what we do. We have a mountain preacher that's interested in what we do. And we've kind of built this whole community around Hellbent Holler of these people from all these disciplines that were never really traditionally interested in the Bigfoot subject because we approach it completely different from a lot of traditional Bigfoot investigators. You know, we are very, very critical about everything we do, and we don't make assumptions. We don't apply narratives to anything. We just go out there and look and report. We observe and report. And I always say that we try to do guerrilla journalism, but the other kind of guerrilla, but it's always the gorilla. But you know, but that's how I always approach everything. And it seems like it's coalesced into a really nice community of people that have all these crazy perspectives that we can apply to the Bigfoot subject and hopefully get some movement on it.
Well, Hellbent Holler is doing some good work, and it's really shining through. And I think you guys are going to enjoy the Monster on Morris Mountain, Bigfoot in the Uwharries. Again, August 10th on the YouTube channel there for Small Town Monsters, and then on formats after that. And we'll keep you updated again on those additional platforms that are forthcoming. And we'll point you to Small Town Monsters website as well, so that you can keep track as to where those additional platforms are going to be.
I do have to ask you, when you heard those vocalizations, how did you feel?
Okay, so at first, I had a little bit of a skeptical ear because, again, I think, okay, is that a coyote?
You should.
You know, but then I started listening a little more carefully as to what the vocalizations were, and I went, no, it's not a coyote. So, yeah.
Cool.
That's what I thought.
I was just curious.
Yeah. No, and again, the second time I watched the movie, because, again, I watched it more than once, I started. I put it through the speaker system in my van.
Oh, cool!
So that I could hear I could be surrounded by the vocalization, so I could hear them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I put a very discerning ear on it.
Very cool. Very cool. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So I sat
that's always what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I sat around it so I could hear it. So it was almost like as you were sitting around it and hearing it around you, I was sitting around it and hearing it around me.
And something I know we mentioned, I use the super sound stick. I use alliteration in everything I do, by the way. Monster on Morris Mountain. I was using the super sound stick. I read a lot of Herman Melville, so I like alliteration.
I do too. I love it. Yeah.
So I was using the super sound stick, and something when you guys watch the film, I want you to pay attention to during that sequence where we're out there, we're capturing that audio. Pay attention to the position of the super sound stick. Watch it as we move around. Watch as I move it around. I can follow the movements of this creature while I'm doing it. So if you watch that and notice that, you can see, because I'm pinpointing the sound as I'm moving the stick around, and I'm really pinpointing his location while I'm doing it because I'm monitoring in real time. So you can kind of see the movements of this creature. It's pretty interesting.
That is very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Jessi Lee, I tell you that it's you got a good one on your hands here. It's an interesting movie. I think people are going to enjoy it, and you may start a huge tourism boom over there in the Uwharries.
Oh, I think they'd enjoy that. The El Dorado Outpost, I think, shared the link for it already. El Dorado Outpost is kind of like a famous little gas station that's out there. We always stop in there. So, you know what? The Uwharries are really cool. It's a nice place. It's interesting. But if you go in the summer, there are rattlesnakes everywhere. Oh. It's one of the worst areas for rattlesnakes. You'll like this, and then we'll wrap up as you wish.
Sure.
There is an old scout camp that is deep in the woods in the Uwharries, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's way up there. It used to get frequented a lot, but now not so much. It has become one of the largest rattlesnake dens in the eastern United States, just this little camp area. Mm-hmm. There's a crude sign when you walk up there that says, "Beware the doom that came to Eden."
Ooh.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you guys do go out to the Uwharries, please be safe. The rattlesnakes are really, really bad out there. I have footage of us at a very interesting site way up in the woods from last June where a 6.5-foot rattlesnake goes right past my feet in the middle of the night. So, whoa. And I'm losing I'm just trying to keep calm as it does it. So, yeah, it's very dangerous.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll ask you this, and then we'll wrap up here. How do you and Joe protect yourself against the rattlesnakes out there? Then, besides the pack you have on your chest.
I'm not trying to shoot a rattlesnake. You're crazy. So I'm terrified of snakes. I'm absolutely terrified. So this is a very difficult thing for me to do. So you just have to try avoidance. We use white light at night, especially in the summer months. If we're out when it's consistently above 50 degrees, we have to use white light when we're going around. We just have to. I'm a little more observant than Joe is, so I'm usually on the front watching. We wear snake gaiters. I have some Danner snake boots, but again, I'm 5'2". If you've got a 6-foot rattlesnake, it's going above my boots. That's just reality, you know. Yep. Another drawback of the small person syndrome, but you just have to look out for them. That's it. I mean, there's no other solution. Just have to look out for them and try avoidance. There is nothing else you can do. So I'm not going back until the winter myself. So that'll be my big plan.
That's always a good plan. I had a cousin who he's in Minneapolis now, but he lived in Colorado and Arizona for the longest time, and he used to go out with just a gun, rattlesnake hunting.
No, I'm not trying to shoot a rattlesnake. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, he was. he definitely was. That's all there is to it. He definitely was. But yeah, so again, folks, the Monster on the Mountain, Bigfoot in the Uwharries is on August 10th. We'll be on the YouTube channel for Small Town Monsters. We have a link in the description of this program. We want you to go watch it early and often. Watch it a couple of times because, again, you're going to see things the first time around, and then you're going to want to go back and look at those things. You're going to want to, again, focus in on them and notice a different detail and listen to those vocalizations.
And I got to tell you, you got to start it. You got to buckle up. It's an hour and 42 minutes, but it's going to be, it's all thriller and no filler.
That's right. You're right, Jessi. Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, we're up on the weekend here, and a couple of things for you before we leave you for the weekend. Again, if you're listening to the show on audio and you want to see it on video, it's real simple. 2 different ways to do it. The original Darkness Radio is on YouTube. That's our channel. Like and subscribe. Watch the video there, or just go to darknessradioshow.com, click on the subject for this show, and you can either watch the video there or listen to the audio or both. It's a one-stop shop, darknessradioshow.com. Second, the Apple app is there and available for Darkness Radio. Either update your Apple apps. You can do that right now for iOS 18, which I believe is going to now change to iOS 26. They're going to update iOS for Apple here with the new iPhone in September. But it's updated. The Apple app is updated currently, or download the Darkness Radio app for your Apple device and make that a one-stop shop for yourself for Darkness Radio. You get everything there that you need for Darkness Radio. Third, the Palmer House trip. We have precious few tickets available for the Palmer House to investigate the Palmer House Hotel here in Minnesota. It is raising money for the animal shelter in St. Cloud. Potographs for Pooches is who we're teaming up with. It's Tim Miley, Lauren Miley, myself, and Scotty Rorick. Please come out. It's a weekend for charity to raise money for the animals in St. Cloud, Minnesota at the shelter there. It's August 1st and 2nd, and tickets are available at potographsforpooches.com, or just go to darknessradioshow.com, go to the events tab, click on the link, and come join us August 1st and 2nd. We're going to have a great time. We're going to investigate the Palmer House Hotel, and we're going to help out the animals. So please join us there. Also, check out the link in the description of this program for Dacre Stoker and Halloween at Dracula's Castle. We've got a link there so that you can join Dacre Stoker at Bran Castle in Romania. Hang out for 10 or 12 days. Did I just see Jessi throw her hands up there? I know, it's the perfect vacation, Jessi. 12 days. You can split it into 10 payments. Go join Dacre Stoker in Romania. It's perfect. It's the perfect Halloween vacation. There's a
Look at me. I'm made for that.
You are made for that. Exactly. You and Joe need to go. You can go with Mysterious Adventures Tours. There's a link in the description of this program so you can do so. Check it out. There's a link, again, in the description of this program so you can do so. That'll do it for this weekend. Again, folks, we want to thank you so much for continuing to support the program. For myself, for Mally Fox, for Jessica Freeberg and Beer City Bruiser, thank you so much for continuing to watch and listen to the best in paranormal programming. This is Darkness Radio.